America built its identity on the shopping mall. For decades, these gleaming climate-controlled cathedrals of commerce were the beating heart of suburban life, the place where teenagers hung out on Friday nights, where families spent their Saturdays, and where the American dream felt tangible and bright under the glow of fluorescent lighting. At their peak in the 1990s, there were over 1,500 regional malls operating across the United States. Today, hundreds of them are silent, decaying, and completely abandoned. Here are 9 of the most famous ones, and the shocking stories of how they fell. Mall number 1, Dixie Square Mall, Harvey, Illinois. If there is one mall that perfectly captures the brutal and sudden death of American retail, it is Dixie Square Mall in Harvey, Illinois. Opened in 1966 at a construction cost of $25 million, Dixie Square was a gleaming suburban showcase featuring 50 stores on its opening day, including anchor giants like JCPenney, Montgomery Ward, Woolworth, and a Jewel supermarket. The grand opening was such a celebrated affair that jazz legend Mel Torme performed live, and fireworks lit up the Illinois sky. For a moment, it felt like the future had arrived in Harvey, but the future turned dark quickly. By the early 1970s, rising crime rates were strangling the suburb of Harvey, located just 20 miles south of Chicago, and customers began staying away. In 1972 alone, a woman was fatally shot in the parking lot during a robbery. In 1973, another person was killed on the mall property itself, and a teenage girl was lured away from the mall by 3 other teenagers and strangled to death. These were not isolated incidents. They were signs of a community in freefall. By 1976, the Montgomery Ward anchor had closed. By January 1978, Turnstile had shuttered. And by November 1978, after spending an extraordinary $1 million on security in just 2 years and still failing to protect customers and tenants from theft and violence, mall management filed for bankruptcy and closed the doors for good. Dixie Square had been open for just 12 years. What followed was one of the most extraordinary and bizarre afterlives in retail history. In 1979, director John Landis rented the abandoned hulk of Dixie Square for 8 weeks to film a car chase. Scene for the Blues Brothers. Jake and Elwood Blues drove through the empty storefronts and smashed through walls, while Illinois State Police troopers pursued them in a sequence that would become cinematic legend. The filming left the interior in even worse shape, with fake walls, crash damage, and debris scattered across the already deteriorating space. After the cameras packed up, the mall was left completely to rot for over 3 decades. Asbestos was discovered, fires broke out, redevelopment plans collapsed one after another, and the building became a destination for urban explorers who photographed its increasingly horrifying decay, collapsed ceilings, waterlogged floors, nature reclaiming what humans had abandoned. It was not until January 2012, after a $4 million federal demolition grant finally cleared regulatory hurdles, that crews began tearing the structure down. By May 17, 2012, the Dixie Square Mall was gone, leaving behind a vacant lot that still sits mostly empty to this day. Mall numbered to Northridge Mall, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Northridge Mall opened on August 2, 1972, in the northern part of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Developed by the Taubman Centers and partially financed by then-Senator Herb Kohl. Its original anchor stores were JCPenney, Sears, Boston Store, and Gimbel's, a 4-anchor powerhouse that made Northridge a dominant retail force in the region. For the first decade, it thrived. But like so many malls of its era, the seeds of its destruction were planted almost at the moment of its opening. The freeway that planners had intended to run through the area, connecting Northridge to the broader Milwaukee highway network, was canceled during the freeway revolts of the 1970s. Without that critical artery, shoppers had to navigate miles of surface roads along Brown Deer Road to reach the mall, as competing shopping centers were built along completed freeways in surrounding areas. Northridge found itself increasingly isolated and inconvenient. Foot traffic fell throughout the 1980s and 1990s, anchor stores departed one by one, and by 2003, the mall shut its doors permanently. It sat as a hollow, graffiti-covered shell for the next 2 decades. What made Northridge's story uniquely infuriating was what happened after closure. A Chinese investment company called U.S. Black Spruce Enterprise Group purchased the property in 2014, making a last-minute payment to halt a foreclosure auction. For years, Black Spruce made vague promises about developing the site into a large-scale Asian marketplace and office complex, but never advanced beyond generic architectural renderings. The company refused to communicate with Milwaukee city officials, paid back taxes only when the city threatened action, and essentially held the decaying 50-acre property hostage while mold grew. Asbestos festered, glass shattered across hallways, and break-ins increased, particularly after YouTubers with millions of subscribers filmed viral exploration videos inside. In December 2023, after years of legal battles, Governor Tony Evers finally granted Milwaukee $15 million to begin demolition. By September 2025, the 900,000 square foot structure had been completely razed. The 58 acres it once occupied now sit vacant, waiting for a new chapter. Mall number 3, Hawthorne Plaza Mall, Hawthorne, California. Hawthorne Plaza opened in February 1977 in Hawthorne, California, a Los Angeles suburb just 13 miles southwest of downtown. Built on a 35-acre lot with 130 for stores and 3 anchor tenants, include JCPenney and Montgomery Ward, the mall served the solidly middle-class communities of the South Bay. For its first decade, it was a successful neighborhood anchor. Then the aerospace industry, the region's economic backbone, began shedding jobs in massive waves throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s, and Hawthorne Plaza's customer base evaporated. The 1990 Los Angeles riots brought looting and physical damage that the mall never fully recovered from. By 1998, only about 70 stores remained, and by 1999, the last tenants left and the doors closed permanently. What has made Hawthorne Plaza uniquely fascinating and frustrating in the decades since is that its walls and ceilings have become one of Hollywood's most sought-after filming locations. The vast, gutted interior has served as a set for Evolution, Minority Report, The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift, Gone Girl, Westworld, Taylor Swift's Ready for It music video, Drake's Knives for What, Travis Scott's Astroworld trailer, and the Christopher Nolan blockbuster Tenet, among dozens of other productions. The irony is almost painful. A mall that could not attract paying shoppers became a prized backdrop for multi-million-dollar film productions. Despite plan after plan for redevelopment, an outlet mall in 2014, a power center in 2016, none ever came to fruition. In December 2022, the mall's co-owner Armin Gamai was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for bribing a Los Angeles County official in a scheme related to the abandoned property. As of late 2023, commercial real estate firm Cushman & Wakefield listed the 935 square foot property for sale, with developers eyeing it for possible residential conversion. Hawthorne Plaza has now been abandoned for over 25 years, spending more time empty than it ever did open. Mall number for Randall Park Mall, North Randall, Ohio. When Randall Park Mall opened in 1976 in North Randall, Ohio, it was the largest shopping center in the entire world. That is not hyperbole. This was a genuine record holder with over 1 million square feet of space, 5 flagship department stores, and a design so massive. It included 3 14-story residential apartment towers and a performing arts center built on the grounds of a former horse racing track. The original mall reportedly cost around $40 million to construct, equivalent to over $100 million in today's dollars. For a period, it was a legitimate destination landmark, drawing shoppers from across the greater Cleveland region. The beginning of the end came with the death of owner Edward DeBartolo in late 1994. Various management companies attempted to sustain the mall, but consistently failed. By 2000, occupancy had climbed briefly to 92%, sparking hope, but by 2001, JCPenney shuttered amid falling sales, and by 2002, Simon Property Group handed over the property rights to a mortgage company in lieu of foreclosure. The mall limped through the 2000s with deepening vacancies, safety concerns, and structural deterioration. In 2004, it was sold for just $6 million. After the 2008 recession delivered a final blow, Randall Park closed for good in 2009, with a single freestanding Burlington coat factory remaining on the grounds, until it closed in 2015. Amazon then swept in, demolishing the entire site in 2017 and constructing an 855 square foot fulfillment center employing 2,000 people. The largest mall in the world became a warehouse. Mall number 5 Rolling Acres Mall, Akron, Ohio. Rolling Acres Mall opened in Akron, Ohio, in August 1975 as a genuine showpiece of modern retail architecture. 2 stories tall, a notable achievement at the time, with glass elevators, glass ceilings, a decorative water fountain, and an indoor arboretum. It was the premier shopping destination in the Akron area. By the mid-1980s, it housed more than 140 stores and for anchor department stores including JCPenney, Sears, Montgomery Ward, and later Dillard's. It had a 3-screen movie theater and was, by any measure, thriving. The story of Rolling Acres' collapse is inseparable from the story of crime. In 1986, a field behind the mall became the site of the torture and murder of 2 young women, a case that achieved national notoriety and cast a dark shadow over the property. Throughout the late 1990s, the surrounding area's economic decline pushed vacancy rates higher and higher. By 2004, roughly half the mall sat empty. Locals avoided the increasingly dilapidated structure, and the mayor of Akron publicly warned residents to stay away. The mall closed in 2013. After closure, a murder victim was discovered inside the building. The glass ceiling collapsed in sections, allowing rain and snow to pour in. In 2007, while the mall was still technically operating but largely vacant, a homeless man was found living in one of the empty stores, surviving on power bars and sports drinks abandoned in a vacant fitness shop. Amazon eventually acquired the site and redeveloped it into a distribution facility, erasing nearly 4 decades of Akron retail history. Mall No. 6 Gwinnett Place Mall, Duluth, Georgia. Gwinnett Place Mall opened in 1984 in Duluth, Georgia, in the northern Atlanta suburbs, and at its peak was one of the most successful malls in the American Southeast. It was modern, lively, and packed with shoppers for the first 2 decades of its existence. But by the 2000s, demographic shifts and the arrival of competing retail developments began pulling traffic away, and the mall entered a long, grim decline. By the mid-2010s, Gwinnett Place had become notorious, not just for its empty corridors, but for the genuine crimes occurring within its walls. Drug activity, prostitution, and violent assaults were reported regularly. In December 2017, the body of a 19-year-old Georgia State University student was discovered in a back room, behind the food court's abandoned Subway restaurant, where it had gone unnoticed for weeks. Sears closed in 2018, and what remained of the mall's commercial life essentially ceased. The story took a surreal turn in that same year, when Netflix's Stranger Things used Gwinnett Place's empty interior as the filming location for the iconic Starcourt Mall in Season 3, a mall that exists in the show as a vibrant, beloved destination. The contrast was almost poetic, a dead mall playing a living one on television watched by millions. By 2020, Gwinnett County purchased the 39-acre site for $23 million with plans for mixed-use redevelopment. The county continued acquiring additional parcels through 2024 and 2025, including the former Macy's and Sears buildings. A cricket stadium, community spaces, and residential development have all been discussed as possibilities for the site's future. For now, the mall stands largely empty, its past as dramatic as its fate. Mall No. 7 Century E Mall, West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. Century 3 Mall in West Mifflin, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, once held the distinction of being the 3rd largest shopping center in the entire world. It opened in 1979 with an enormous footprint and served the Pittsburgh area for decades. At its height, Century 3 was a regional institution, drawing shoppers from across southwestern Pennsylvania. Its decline began in earnest in the 2000s as anchor stores departed, and the surrounding community's economic base eroded. By the time the last major tenants left, the mall had become a genuine eyesore, boarded up, structurally compromised, and bitterly contested between local officials who wanted it demolished and property owners. Navigating complex legal and financial obstacles, locals grew increasingly frustrated watching the massive hulk sit rotting in the community, an embarrassing symbol of retail's collapse and government's inability to act swiftly. Safety protocols, environmental reviews, and ownership disputes have repeatedly delayed meaningful action. The former 3rd largest mall in the world now stands as one of Pennsylvania's most controversial abandoned properties. Mall No. 8 Chambersburg Mall, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Chambersburg Mall, which opened in 1982 in South Central Pennsylvania, was never among the nation's retail titans, but it was a genuine community anchor for the Chambersburg area for decades. At its peak, it contained a full roster of stores serving the local population, and the mall represented an important economic engine for a region with limited large-scale retail alternatives. The decline came gradually, accelerated by online shopping, poor management decisions, and the departure of anchor stores that had made the mall worth visiting. By 2023, the last remaining tenant, an antique shop, closed its doors, and Chambersburg Mall became completely and officially abandoned. The property owner has reportedly considered some form of redevelopment, but no concrete plans have materialized. The mall stands today as a reminder that even modest community malls, not just the giant regional centers, have been swallowed whole by the death of brick-and-mortar retail. Mall number 9, Cloverleaf Mall, Chesterfield, Virginia. Cloverleaf Mall opened in 1972 in Chesterfield County, Virginia, and held the distinction of being the first large-scale regional shopping mall in the area. Its developer, Leonard Farber, paid meticulous attention to his target market, reportedly installing carpeting specifically designed to cushion shoppers' legs so they could walk and browse longer. Around 45 stores opened on opening weekend, nearly half of them women's clothing boutiques. For the 1970s and early 1980s, Cloverleaf thrived, adding a movie theater, a food court, and expanding its anchor presence. The mall's reputation began souring in the late 1980s and early 1990s, as reports emerged of intimidating groups of youths gathering in the corridors, making especially female shoppers uncomfortable. The perception of safety, real or exaggerated, is fatal to a mall, and Cloverleaf never recovered its earliest standing. Through the 1990s and 2000s, anchor stores declined to renew leases and departed one after another. By the mid-2000s, various parties were bidding to purchase the site, including, according to some sources, a local church hoping to convert the mall into a sanctuary. Chesterfield County ultimately stepped in, purchased the property, and closed it for good in 2008. After 3 years of sitting empty, the mall was demolished in 2011. The site now hosts Stonebridge Shopping Center, an open-air retail development, sold to new owners for $12 million, a fraction of what the original mall represented at its peak. And that is the story of 15 famous American malls that are now completely abandoned. From the crime-riddled collapse of Dixie Square to the Hollywood ghost of Hawthorne Plaza. From Milwaukee's two-decade legal battle over Northridge to the lightning-fast implosion of Seminole Town Center, each of these malls tells us something important about where we have been as a country and what we have lost. If you found this video fascinating, do us a favor and hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps more people find this channel and discover these incredible stories. If you are not already subscribed, click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new video. We cover history, forgotten places, and the stories that fell through the cracks of mainstream conversation. And we publish new content every week. Drop a comment below and tell us, did you ever visit any of these malls? Do you have memories of a local mall that has since closed? We read every single comment and love hearing your stories. And if you know someone who would love this video, share it with them. It costs you nothing and means everything to us. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and we will see you in the next one.